So, I want to talk about Michelle today. Michelle is one of my amazing clients. And Michelle, I'd love for you to introduce yourself. Tell us where you're from, tell us what you do, a little bit about your background, and then we'll dive in from there.
Sure. So I am Michelle Gloviak, and I've been working with Krista for about a year now. But prior to that, I am a mother and a wife, a sister and a friend, first and foremost. But I'm also a CPA, and I spent the first 10 years of my career in public accounting, pretty fast-paced and demanding. And I found that working with mission-driven organizations was something that I felt very passionate about. And I also enjoyed working with the self-selected group of people who work at mission-driven organizations. I just find that they want to be part of something bigger than themselves. And that those are my people. So I had moved on and worked at a nonprofit organization as the VP of Finance and Administration. And the nonprofit community is how I made my way to my current role at a private club in Haverford, Pennsylvania. And that's just outside of Philadelphia. And I've been there for 8 years now. So, really amazing group of people, really interesting industry, and lots of different challenges and demands along the way. But my my 14-year-old son, Cameron, is the light of my life. And I'm actually going to go to his first baseball game this season later today.
Amazing, amazing. So, one of the things I love about you, Michelle, is that you've always been about impact and impacting your community, impacting your family, and also just impact on your own life, taking ownership and responsibility for how you show up, how you feel, how you show up as a leader, because you are a CFO and you lead an amazing team, right? And you support a lot of other departments in that role as well. And so, you've always been really focused on impact. And so I'd love to hear and share a little bit about your success revolution as we started our work together, a year ago, and kind of where you were at that point in time and why you decided to step into coaching.
Sure, sure. So I think I think throughout my childhood and growing up, my college career, and then young adulthood, I think I always just bought into or subscribed to the notion that if you did all the right things, you worked hard, you put in the time and effort, you got the degree, you got the job, you do all these things, kind of on this timeline or this checklist, that's the formula, right? Like that's the
Mhm.
formula. I'm going to be happy. The pot of gold is at the end of the rainbow kind of thing. But
Yeah.
um, I sort of I did all those things. I thought I did what I was supposed to do, and there was just something that was not right. I couldn't put my finger on it. I just knew that I wasn't feeling content. I had every reason to be content and happy. I have a great life, I have a great family. Like there's a lot of things to be grateful for.
Yeah.
So I couldn't reconcile how I was feeling with, the life that I have. And I also started to have some physical reactions to stress, right? You know, in the past, stress, you just work harder, you just work through it, you tough it out. And
Mhm.
I did that for a really long time. And I think it caught up with me. So we talk a lot about what you resist persists, and that sticks with me because it really did. My body was saying this is not working anymore, and that
Mhm.
was kind of a wake up call for me that hey, maybe I'm not handling this as well as I thought I could, right?
Yeah.
And I needed to do something about it. And I don't know, the universe always provides because you and I connected on LinkedIn right when I needed you the most. And we've been doing this work ever since. So that's kind of how things started, right? I didn't really quite know what I was looking for. I just knew something wasn't right.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. And I think so many women that I talk to have that experience, right? Where it's like there's so many things going well in our life.
Mhm.
Great career, great family. Like we've done all the things that were supposed to make us feel successful, and yet we're not feeling fulfilled or not feeling successful, or we just feel burnt out and tired or on autopilot, right?
Yeah.
And we're wondering why what we were
Yeah.
told to do has led us to a place where we're not feeling good. And I think sometimes that comes with a little bit of guilt, right? I've heard where it's like, I should be happy, I should be grateful. And I know something we've worked on together is like, you get to want more. You get to want to be fulfilled. You get to want to feel good and be happy and feel more connected to the people that you love and show up in a way that feels aligned for you. That these feelings don't mean you're doing something wrong or that you should be grateful when you're not. It means that there's more that's available to you and there's a part of you that knows that. And I
Mhm.
think that's the part of you that showed up for coaching is like, I
Yeah.
know that there's more that's available to me and I'm willing to step into that. So, as always, I celebrate you for taking the step and taking the leap. Um, and I also know that in the past you said, I didn't really know what I was getting into. But like, I'm so happy that I did it. So if you can shed a little light on what that might feel like for people, because our community is maybe a little different than what you may expect or what others may have experienced in other networking groups or coaching or therapy. So I'm curious your thoughts on how it's different than what you maybe thought it would be or what you have experienced in other spaces.
Mhm. Sure, sure. Yeah, I think for some reason in my head, I had always kind of separated professional development and and working on my mental and physical well-being. Like those were two separate things and they didn't cross over, right? Which is
Yeah,
completely wrong. I mean, my mental and physical well-being comes to work with me every day. So
yeah.
I think that, where I was at in the beginning was like I said earlier, I just knew something had to happen. I had that wake up call. I needed to do something, and I was open and willing to try something new.
Hmm.
And like you said, I didn't know exactly what I was getting into, but I trusted the process. I trusted the journey, and I think what was most eye-opening to me is understanding that. Um, More about your nervous system and how that affects how you show up on a daily basis, whether it's any sort of relationship or a setting, right? It doesn't have to be work. It could be home, friends, whatever. Um, that your nervous system is hardwired pretty early on, right? Or programmed pretty early on. But what I didn't understand is that you can learn strategies and tactics and have this toolbox that helps you reprogram your nervous system
Hmm.
and like knowing that that's possible, that you can make that change, you can make that shift,
Yeah.
really opened my eyes to kind of having a change of mind where I thought, hey, I'm in this spot, I'm feeling stressed, I'm having physical reactions, I'm not happy, I just need to do less. I need to quit work. I need to, right? I was
Hmm.
being extreme because I was
Hmm.
burnt out. And what this journey has taught me is that, doing these small, consistent changes over time can help reprogram your nervous system so that the answer really isn't, okay, we just quit, we're doing less. It's, I can start to feel good in my own skin and be more pleasant to be around in general, right? I
Yeah.
can show up in a different way, but understanding that that's possible was
Hmm.
eye-opening to me, that reprogramming.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't know anything about it. Like I was
Yeah.
starting at zero.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know, one of the things that I love about our community, one is, and you especially, is like your willingness and your commitment to try on new things. Because so much of what we're taught is not what we practice in our community, right? We do the opposite.
Yes.
So we feel feelings and we tune in and we slow down and we move our bodies and, um, we do things differently, which is really beautiful. And there's also has to be that willingness to try that something new to really get that result. And you've always shown up willing and committed to do those things, whether they're on our calls, in our groups, or independently. And that's one of the things that I love about you. And I would also say it's just so much of what we've learned from other people who are just moving through life with the same programs that were given to us, right? But it's not actually working for anybody. It's not actually working for
Yeah.
them, right? And so it's like now we shift to, yes, this might not be the norm, but it's actually scientifically like what supports your nervous system in creating a change. And I mean, something you hear from me all the time is that only 5% of change takes place in the mind, right? So like we can listen to the podcast, we can go to the events, we can read the books, right? Read the articles about how to manage your stress, but how does that actually integrate into your daily practices and into your nervous system, which is really what we've worked on together. So I'd love to hear if you have an example. I'd love to hear of like a moment where you felt like you showed up differently because you had done that integration nervous system work.
Hmm. I can say that the the project that I'm working on at work right now is a real challenge, right? So
Mhm.
it requires um, you know, my full brain power, more hours than normal, which causes stress because then, I'm not paying attention to home life as much as I
Yeah.
would like to. So um, I I can tell you that I would not be prepared to take this project on if I had not gone through this journey with you this last year.
Mhm.
And just kind of specifically, just earlier this week, I had someone, so we're going live with a new system next week. So it is crunch time right this very
Yeah.
moment. So I had someone come to me last, I guess was earlier this week, and they said to me, I don't know, we're just talking about it. And they said, wow, you seem really calm. Like they've made the observation that
Yeah.
I was not freaking out. I was not running around with like a chicken with my head cut off. I was not, stressed and overwhelmed or short or,
Mhm.
I showed up. I'm like, guys, we're gonna be fine. We've got this, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
feel confident because everyone's doing their work, right? But
Mhm.
felt I would not have felt that calm. I would not have been able to move, the overwhelmed feeling I felt earlier in the day to get to that point. I would have
Yeah.
just let it build or shove it down, right? Because that's what
Right.
you do.
Yeah.
So there's many moments along the way, but this one's a big one because this is a really big challenge for
Yeah.
me and my team and my family.
Right, right. Yeah, and we always talk about the ripple effect, right? And how the work that you do like ripples out into the teams that you lead, the people that you interact with, the vendors that you're working with to implement this project, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And your family and even your relationship, how you show up with your son, show up as a leader, right? Like a female boss for your son, right?
Hmm.
And how that ripples out. And so I'm curious. What do you feel like that ripple has looked like in comparison to what it would have looked like, right? Because when you're a confident, calm leader, that makes your team feel more confident and calm,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So if you weren't showing up that way, how do you think your
Yeah.
team would have reacted? or
Ab-
felt or shown
oh,
up.
absolutely. Oh, they would be absolutely insane right now. And maybe we are a little bit at moments, right?
Yeah, sure.
But also, you had mentioned something earlier of that we feel feelings, right?
Hmm.
Noticing, acknowledging, allowing those feelings rather than pushing them down, ignoring, right?
Yeah,
I think that's something that I bring into the workplace now, that
beautiful.
if this is hard, right? This work that we're doing is hard, and not knowing what tomorrow or next week is going to look like is really uncomfortable. And
Hmm.
saying those words out loud and acknowledging is comforting in and of itself, right? So if someone's feeling that way and we say, "No, everything's going to be fine. I don't even know what you're worried about," right? We're not really being honest with ourselves and with the situation. But
Right.
if we get on that same level and we say, "Hey, this is hard. This is challenging." And you're feeling uncomfortable, and that's normal. We're all feeling uncomfortable. Change is really difficult for anybody,
Hmm.
even if you like change, right? Change is really
Completely.
difficult. And so there's a lot of emotions, and they come up at different times for different
Hmm.
people. And through this process, we're allowing those. We're making space for someone to have a freak out moment where they
Yeah.
hate everything. And then they come
Yeah,
back and say, you know what? Okay, let's move forward.
that's right.
But I really think that me showing up and allowing my feelings and being honest with the team
Mm.
is is opening up that door, kind of giving permission for everyone to allow the different feelings and thoughts and stressors that they're going through this process.
Amazing, amazing. And to me, that is what the success revolution represents, right? It's like not only your own success, Michelle feeling successful in your own body, showing up as a leader, moving through the project, but then translating that out in the ripple effect and helping the other individuals, teams, everybody involved also have their own success revolution, right? Because of the way that you lead, because of the work you're doing for yourself. And I think so often people come into the space thinking, oh, I'm just going to feel better. And not realizing, like, oh, I actually show up as a better leader. I can actually connect better with my son, with my husband. I can have, I can connect better with any relationships in your life, right? Whether personal
Mhm.
or professional, you can show up as a better version of you and all the labels that we have on all of ourselves, right? In all instances. And it really does ripple out, which I think is one of the things that I'm always like pleasantly not surprised anymore, but pleasantly witnessing, right? Is because everyone comes into the space thinking, this is for me. And the truth is, yes, it's for you, and it's also for everyone in your sphere.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, um, yeah, I'm curious, how do you feel like this has supported you in your life? Any specific examples of how you move differently, feel differently, talk to yourself differently that you want people to know is available
Mhm.
for them?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that I've always spoke very highly about being self-aware, right? I think that's
Mhm.
something that's really important. I don't think I fully understood what that meant until recently. And, I just thought of it as being, behavioral characteristics. Oh, I'm aware of how I come across or how I can be perceived or how
Mhm.
I make decisions, whatever that looks like. I think now it's all those things, but it's more. It's being self-aware of understanding or identifying when I feel a trigger, when I feel an emotion coming on that
Mhm.
I normally would have ignored and allowed to get out of control, cause stress, cause burnout, because I would ignore it. Now I
Mhm.
feel it. Now I know, oh, I know what that is. I recognize that anxiety. I
Yeah.
so I really am my self-awareness or like my introspective consciousness is just kind of expanded or has been developed, right? So
Hmm.
I think that's something that has affected how I move through life, right? Because I notice when this anxiety is building, and I don't let it get to the point now where it feels like my heart has, barbed wire around it and I'm having
Yeah.
chest pains, right? Those physical
Yeah.
responses to stress I was talking about before, like I feel it coming and I know the exercise that we go through, right? Like,
Hmm.
okay, let me sit in this, let me allow it, let me think about this differently, let me
Yeah.
flip how I'm thinking about it, right? So that self awareness has just been um, really underdeveloped in myself for quite a
Hmm.
long time.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. So I love that reflection and how you lean into your toolbox, right? And how you use it. And I'd love to hear how, our community, for me, like our community is very special. My relationships with all my clients are very special. I adore each and every one of you. And it also takes a level of openness and vulnerability and transparency to, especially as like a driven, ambitious, independent, like strong woman, to come into the space and be like, this is what I'm challenged with. This is where I'm coming to be guided and supported and be the student. Because oftentimes you're the leader, right? And you are the teacher. And so I'm curious how it has felt to shift roles, right? And be the vulnerable one who's coming with openness, curiosity, and willing to learn and be taught. Yeah, how that's felt. And to those independent women who think they should be doing it on their own, right? What you would say to them.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back to our very first conversation because I was skeptical, right?
Yeah.
I'm I'm a numbers person. I'm a science person. I need to know the data. I need to know how it's going to work. I need to
Me
understand it,
too.
right?
Yeah.
And so I had one of the questions that I had asked you in the very beginning was, what if what if I don't like the other women that are in the group and I don't feel comfortable sharing these very kind of vulnerable moments and
Hmm.
allowing myself to really benefit from the work and the journey. And you had so very kindly answered my question and said, well, one, I've never had that happen, right?
Hmm.
And and then I fast forward to joining the group and meeting the other women that um, you have selected very intentionally to be invited to this group. Like
Hmm.
there's just a sign up sheet at the gas station where anyone can they're they're like-minded women
Hmm.
who are going through similar struggles. Um, maybe a little bit different, right? Not everybody is the same, but very similar situations where it became clear to me after maybe the second group session that I participated in that this was a really amazing group of women, and I would just be silly not to fully throw myself into it.
Hmm.
And they made it better. They made it better than I even really um, thought it would be. It exceeded expectations. So if you've, and believe me, I'm someone who does things themselves all the time.
Yeah.
It is, it's not only okay to ask for help, but it is not a sign of weakness. It's actually the most beautiful sign of strength
Hmm.
that um, I feel like I am a better person because I was able to put down those walls, put down the guards, and really just allow the process to unfold the way it was supposed to.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And I think, especially for those of us who have big goals, like are driven, ambitious, we want to keep growing, we want to keep learning, we want to keep getting to our next level in whatever way, shape, or form that looks in all areas of life. Um, Receiving support is just a way to cut the learning curve,
Mhm.
right? It's just a way to move faster. It's just a way to build momentum. And I know that's something that we talk about outside of our calls, we have a Slack community, right? Where you can reach out to me in between one-on-ones or group calls so that you feel like you can cut that learning curve and build the momentum while also tapping into your toolbox independently. But that support means you get to move faster through like life and challenges and get to the other side of things and get to clarity and get to feeling good and get to relief. And so, yeah, I'd love to know if there's anything that kind of stands out to you from our community, how how it's run, what's offered there that maybe you've been surprised by or enjoyed. Yeah, I'd love to hear what that is for you.
Yeah, I think that the piece that I mean, on top of one-on-ones and the group support, which are two very different um, kind of experiences, which I think complement one another.
Mhm.
The Slack you had mentioned, I learned how to use Slack. Um, I
Love it.
I do. I do enjoy, I mean, you're always available. If there's a moment or you just want to check in on how you're feeling, you want to write it down or do a voice message, always, always, always available to your community. The piece that I enjoy or wasn't really expecting was um, you will send weekly, sometimes bi-weekly, a voice memo in Slack to the group and prompting us, check in on your feelings. What's going on today? I have a question for you. And it continues you in that same thought process where you don't forget about it in between those scheduled calls, right? You're still doing the work, you're still improving yourself and your experience in between, right? It doesn't stop. But
Hmm.
it's also on my time, right?
Yeah.
I don't always have time to respond immediately, right? I'm in a meeting, I'm at work, I'm traveling, whatever that looks
Yeah.
like. But you can always go back to it if in the evening or first thing in the morning, whatever that looks like for you, it's on your time and you can have that reflection or respond to that voice note or send a message in the Slack. It doesn't have to be, okay, it's Monday morning at 8 a.m. I hope you're all at your desks. We're doing this work. But
Yeah.
it's so flexible, right? Because I think it has to be to work because
Hmm.
everybody has a different schedule. I think some people are in different time zones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing. So I think lastly, I'll just open it up to you and see like, is there anything that you would want to share with someone who's maybe considering being a
Mhm.
part of this community or maybe considering coaching? And yeah, what would you want them to know or think about as they're in consideration phase?
Um, I think, and believe me, I will talk about this with anybody who will listen because I truly I truly believe um that it's something that we all need to incorporate in our continuous improvement, right? We can go to all the continuing professional education classes and learn the laws and regulations and pronouncements and things like that. But this work is what really is going to empower you to be an effective leader or more effective than you already are.
Mhm.
And you hear about soft skills a lot, right? Well, we can learn some soft skills, but this is really doing some serious work that isn't just, hey, let's learn how to interact with difficult people, right?
Yeah.
It's taking it to another level. So it has, I think that it has impacted my leadership style in that I'm I'm not quite so rigid, right? There was professional Michelle who was like, you know what, you don't know anything about not anything. They know I have a family, etc. But you don't know details about my life or who my friends are or what kind of music I listen to. Hey, I have to wear a suit. I have to wear a lapel. I have to have this presence for people
Hmm.
to respect me. And that's not entirely true, right? I mean, obviously, I'm still wearing a jacket, but
Yeah.
I do have to show up to work in professional attire, but I'm showing up in a different way. It's a little bit warmer, it's a little bit more um, empathetic, and I think real. And people
Hmm.
see that. People know they can feel it,
Yeah.
and I think that that just helps bond teams a little bit better, build trust within teams, and kind of allow people to give others the benefit of the doubt a little bit more often. Say, oh, you know what? That's really unlike her. She must be having a bad day. I wonder what's going on with her, rather than, oh, she's always like that. She's awful. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do think it's something that's difficult to explain because it's not tangible.
Right.
And that's what leadership is. Leadership is not tangible,
Hmm. Hmm.
which is why it's so difficult and so few people can really do it well, right? But
Yeah.
this process and these tools and this community has helped me get better. I'm not done, right? We're never
Yeah.
done. We
Yeah.
continuously improve.
That's right.
But yeah, that's where it is. It's this intangible thing called leadership, whether it's in your life or with your friends or with your family. Um, it's more than just work, but I feel like I can be more real, if that makes sense.
Yeah, beautiful. And I mean, I think it brings us back to what you said at the very beginning, which was at the beginning you felt like you were two separate Michelles, right? A
Hmm.
work Michelle and a personal life Michelle.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you are Michelle all the time and you're bringing your whole self to work now and you're bringing your whole self to your personal life. And it just feels so much more aligned and, like you said, so much more real, so much more authentic. And you can really live out your values so much
Hmm.
more by not trying to be two different versions of this one person,
Hmm.
who, when you are really showing up in a holistic and authentic way, it's actually so much more of service to everyone involved,
Yeah.
right? As a leader, as a mom, as a partner, as a friend, a daughter, a sister, all the things that you mentioned in the beginning of the call, right? So, I'm so, so honored to be a part of your support network and to know you and to celebrate your impact and your influence and that this is gets to be right, you get to choose, like you said, we keep continuing on the personal growth journey and there's always more to reveal at every new level, right, of ourselves and everything opens up to us. The more we shed, the more clarity we get, the more insights we get around what we want our life to look like, and the deeper and more meaningful the co-creation of our experience gets to be, right? Whether at work or in our personal lives. And so I'd love to hear, like, what do you feel like feels more accessible and available to you now than it did a year ago since you've moved through this
Hmm.
process?
I I think that for me, I thought I understood what setting boundaries looked like,
Hmm.
and I really was not good at it. I became self-aware and I'm actually really terrible at boundaries, and one of my, my overdeveloped characteristics is that I am a people pleaser, and I want everyone to be happy. I don't want to let anyone down. So the answer is yes. Yes, I'll make the homemade pie for your party
Yeah.
that I don't have time for. Yes, I'll have everybody over and host a giant event where I don't have time to prepare for this. Or,
Mhm.
um, you know, yes, I'll come in, pick up everybody at baseball practice or whatever. When you can, when it feels supportive for both parties, that's when it's healthy. And I was not looking at it that way. I was just giving, 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 and I didn't set any healthy boundaries for myself, right? I wasn't
Mhm.
looking at it from the perspective of, does this support me? Because I didn't really think of it as, if I said no, I was really actually doing something that was going to allow me to show up in a better way.
Yeah.
And by saying no, it isn't being selfish. It it is I'm saying no in that moment. And maybe it's a not right now. Maybe it's a,
Mhm.
hey, this isn't a good time, but I'd love to do XYZ. And so just really reframing the no, as it's not so negative,
Yeah.
it's not labeled as selfish, allowed me to start to set healthy boundaries. And some
Beautiful.
of those were with myself, right? It wasn't
Amazing.
always with other people. It was, um, maybe I don't have time to, make the homemade meal on whatever day it is. We can like Krista, you always say you can outsource that, right? I need to outsource things because I only have so much time in a day. And some of that time is very important to set aside for yourself, for rest, for reflection, whatever that looks like, because you can't keep giving, right? You're gonna I ran out. I didn't
Yeah.
have anything left to give. And so it felt really good to switch my thinking, that saying no, or saying not right now, because that feels better,
Yeah.
is healthier for everyone, including myself. And
Beautiful.
at the end of the day, guess what? Nothing happened so bad when I said no.
Yeah. Yeah. And even sometimes like better things have resulted
Yes,
from it. Right.
absolutely. Hmm.
Yeah, and I think, that's the paradox of transformation is that we keep gripping to life in the way we think we need to grip to it to have control and have an outcome that we want. And in reality, it's self-fulfilling prophecy that we are creating that which we don't want. And when we loosen the grip and we actually create more space, right? We actually set the boundaries. We actually slow down on some of the patterns that haven't been serving you. You actually build your capacity for everything you do want, which is more connection time, more connectedness to your leadership at work, more connectedness to your family, more connectedness to yourself, right? We always talk about building self-trust, right? More connection to self-trust, self-love, self-confidence, your own reliability. And that all comes from building capacity by creating these pockets of space, right? To build that capacity. And when you do that, you get to enjoy more of your life. You're not so stressed, you're not so triggered, you're not so overwhelmed. And I mean, you've always heard me say the expectation isn't to move through life without ever feeling triggered or a challenge because we're human beings having a human experience. But the expectation is how can we shorten and close those gaps, right? Between how we're feeling and taking action or moving forward, or shorten the duration of those experiences so that we can have less stress, less anxiety, more joy, more connection, more clarity around where we want to move in the future.
Mhm.
Yeah, amazing. Anything else that you want to share today, Michelle. It's been such a pleasure
Oh,
being with you and talking to you.
I know it's always my pleasure, Krista. I have to say that um, if there's, there's new individuals going into this and you feel a little bit skeptical, just lean into it. Lean into feeling a little bit silly when you're moving your body, when you might be at work with your door closed, but like
Mm.
just do it and trust the process because the reward will be that much sweeter if you fully just allow yourself and open up your mind and expectations to what is in store because it's one of those things where you don't know what you don't know.
Mhm.
And a year ago I did not know what I was about to experience in the most beautiful and positive way.
Yeah, beautiful. Amazing. Amazing. And I would also just say with that, it's a co-creation when we are creating community. Like, yes, you get to show up in vulnerability and you get to show up in openness and willingness. And, my biggest intention and mission with our spaces are to create safety for that, right? There's no judgment. We always
None.
welcome everything, right? We always can reframe anything that you're judging about yourself as something beautiful and positive and lots of love and compassion and a lot of things that we don't feel in other areas of our life, right? We bring that into community here so that people feel really safe to open up. Has that been your experience?
Absolutely. I mean, I always say this to you that I'm like, you always know what to say to not tell me how to feel. You never tell me. You ask very specific questions to get me to lead myself to you lead me in
Mhm.
that right direction, right? And
Mhm.
and it and it's very intentional and it's crafted in the most amazing way, right? Where sometimes I'll get off of a call with you and I'm like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that's where that feeling was coming from. Or really, this is deeper seated than I even gave it
Mhm.
credit for, right? I think there was one example, and I keep coming back to this project right now because it's very much in the
Yeah,
forefront of my
fresh.
mind. But it was in the beginning where it didn't start yet, and I was dreading it. I didn't want to come into work. I didn't want to do it. And you prompted me with very well-crafted questions and prompts to get me to understand or come to the conclusion that I wasn't worried about work at all. I was worried about spending more time at work, less time at home. My son is growing up, and I feel like I'm running out of time
Mhm.
with him before he goes to college. And I never even put those two things together. Like that was never even a spark of a thought in my mind until we spoke about it and you prompted me and led me to that. Whereas I had this epiphany. I'm like, well, this makes perfect sense. This is what's going on inside of me, right? And so you don't you don't know it's there. You don't know what you don't know, but you have to just kind of trust the process and you guide us through it with grace. And I appreciate that so
Oh,
much.
thank you. Thank you for that, Michelle. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to share your experience and your journey in the space. I so love having you in my community, and I am so grateful to the universe for connecting the two of us on LinkedIn. And I've just loved witnessing your journey and look forward to continuing to witness what comes from this new level that you're at. So thank you so much for joining me today and talking and sharing your story.
Thank you.